Okay, I'm using a Miller 135. Got my argon set at about 20 pounds. I've got my wire speed, or my voltage I should say, at about 2.5. I've got my speed at around 25, and I'll tailor that up or down a little bit. Sometimes I'll run these a little bit hotter with a little bit more argon because of the dirt and rust that's on there. You'll kind of want to burn through that. Take our patch panel, slide it up underneath, mark it like such. So you can see where we want to cut it. But we're not going to cut it right there. We're going to cut it a little bit larger than we need, and then we're going to trim it down nice and neat to make sure it fits exactly where we like it. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Now, if you've had to use a larger patch panel or whatever, or things are a little wicky-wacky, what you can do is just take the fender, put it on the truck, see how she fits, and then tailor as you need. So I'm going to go try that now. Alright, well it's a good thing we checked because this hole is off just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is cut my little welds on the end. I'm going to move this piece right where I want it, and then I'll... Okay, so now I know I've got this right where I need it. I'm going to go ahead and weld this up. Okay, I've got my brace welded up. I know it's nice and firm. Now I'm going to slowly start rolling this edge over. Keep in mind I said slowly. Roll this over. If you hammer too much, you're going to take this edge and you're going to push it over. So we're trying to fold it over. This piece right here, you'll have to cut right here. The reason you're doing this first is because if you weld all this up and then you do this, sometimes it can contort the metal. So we want to fold this over, have the metal contorted or not, and then we can finish this off. I'm going to test this up against the fender, or up against, I'm going to take it and test it again just to double check everything. Okay, I want a firm hold right here. So we'll hammer this down lightly. We'll drill a couple of holes. We'll do a Rosetta weld, that'll make this really firm. And then we'll drill an extra hole in the bottom right here so that we can get moisture out of this. It's the trapping of all the dirt and all the moisture that causes the rust. So make sure you give yourself an exit hole for that. Okay, in case you're not familiar with a Rosetta weld, it's basically just when you drill a hole right through and you weld it back up. Okay, with all this secured, now we can go ahead flip it over and just do some tack welds on here. Now keep in mind, the hotter this gets, the more likely it is to warp. So we're going to just spread out our welds about every 4 inches. We're going to give it a lot of time to cool down, and then we'll do subsequent tack welds. Stay away from this area right here. We're going to mold this off later. I'll go ahead and weld everywhere where it's needed. You only want to do that amount of tack welds. Then when this metal shrinks, it typically shrinks in. So we flip this upside down. Take our dolly on the bottom, and we're going to hammer on the dolly. We're going to hammer right where our weld is. So here you can see why it's necessary to go past the support right here so that you can do this hammer. We're waiting for our welds to cool down. Go ahead and grind off some of this stuff. Now put your hand on here and make sure that it's cool before you weld. Okay, and then just go ahead and keep alternating between grinding off a little bit, hammering down your tacks, and tacking it up. Hard wheel is good for nooks and crannies and getting off the big bulky stuff. You're going to want to switch down to about a 60 grit and finish it off nicer. If you're going to be doing my outside of the metal or something like that, you want to go a little bit higher, maybe 80, 120 or so. Now I'm grinding down these welds. If you use a large wheel like this, it's got the rubber backing here, it'll, when you're sanding, you'll be able to see if you have any high and low spots, and you'll be able to correct those while you're working. Once we've got enough secure welding in this area right in here, we can go ahead and finish off this area and roll it over. Okay, you can see how you're going to have to roll this lip on over. So what we'll do is just slowly roll it over, tack welding while we go. We'll bring the edge all the way over, and then we'll trim off any extra. Now, a lot of times this area will get stress cracked right here after you repair. So I like to do my welding on the inside, I like to do a nice fat weld, and then I'll leave it. I won't grind any of this weld out from the inside. Now, normally you wouldn't do this much welding in one particular area, but we're actually trying to heat the metal up a little bit so that it makes it more viable and you'll be able to fold it over a little bit easier. This type of dolly is generally best for this. Weld it all the way up to this edge right here. Okay, so here is your finished product. Nice looking, nice and flat. So you might do a little hammering and dinging just to keep it all nice and even. And a lot of times guys will put primer on this. Problem with primer is it's hydroscopic, which basically means that it sucks up moisture. So if you put primer on this, it'll suck the moisture out of the air, put it right onto your bare metal, and then it'll start rusting. So you need to shoot this with an exterior Rust-Oleum or what have you.